Welcome to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. Build Your Best Business is focusing on the entrepreneurial journey. What does it take to successfully start, manage, grow, and eventually exit a business? Today, we're talking with Tommy Breedlove. He is an influencer, speaker, and coach. And his new movement, not necessarily a company, and we'll talk a little bit more about that, is Choose Goodness. So, Tommy, thanks for joining us.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
So, Choose Goodness.
Choose Goodness.
Tell us about that.
Absolutely. So Choose Goodness started before it became a movement. It's got a series of companies underneath it. But before it became a movement, it was a benchmark that I had set for myself at 36 years old. I had spent I was a junior partner at a large financial consulting firm in town.
Okay.
I grew up at Deloitte, and I woke up at age 36. I had the title, the big office, the car, you name it. But I looked behind me, and all I saw was a wake of destruction. I was that guy of ye who turns the lights off last wins, the Viking, wore all the different masks that we wear as men, you know, the tough guy, the powerful guy, can't show weakness guy. And it just manifested itself in my life in so many negative ways. In fact, if there's this checklist of 100 things not to do, I checked off like 90-something of them, and I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. So Choose Goodness initially started as a benchmark for me as a human being. And I would ask myself in every decision I've made, have I chose goodness for myself, even to this day, one of the tough ones, someone close to me, my community, on my planet. And that, the most interesting thing happened to me over that very quick time period over the next 3 years. I went from living in all the wrong ways to all the right ways, my value systems, from a place of security and not fear, more abundance, worthiness type mindset. And the most interesting thing happened. I went from junior partner to international practice leader, to senior partner, to eventually being elected to the board of directors of this large public accounting financial consulting firm based in the Southeast. And it was all by living in all the right ways and treating the people the way I wanted to be treated. And so Choose Goodness now is a movement about clear, conscious, and courageous choices for leaders and companies. It blends humanity and profitability. It's all about I'm a huge business guy, a huge entrepreneurial spirit type guy. But it is all about making money in the right ways and helping people know that you do have permission to choose. And are you choosing as a company, as a leader, as a culture? Are you choosing from a heart space or a mind space and a fear space or an abundance space? So that's what the Choose Goodness movement is.
Okay. And I like the contrast of fear and abundance, because I think those are two distinct categories, and you either live in one or you live in the other.
Totally.
Yeah. And so talk to me pre-2006. So how did you end up at Deloitte? Like, did you grow up saying, hey, that's what I want to do? Like, how did you
No, I didn't actually. I grew up from humble blue-collar beginnings, South Atlanta. Okay. I was the first person in my family to graduate college. My aspiration, actually, the neighborhood I came from is a good, solid blue-collar working group. You went to trade school, you went to the military, or you went to jail.
Okay.
Unfortunately, through some really bad decisions at 18 years old, I went to jail. That was my path. Right. And through a lot of good luck, a lot of circumstances that just were out of my control, but somebody was looking out for me in a really good way, I ended up from jail to Deloitte in 3 years. I had no idea what Deloitte even was, right. And so when I got out of, I hurt somebody that I loved very much when I was 18 years old, and rightfully so, paid the consequences for it. But through a lot of good luck, a lot of hard work, when I got out, I actually spent my 19th birthday incarcerated, believe it or not.
Oh, wow.
But when I got out, I went to work in a factory and went to school at night, kind of scared straight type stuff. Ended up at the University of Georgia, which might as well have been Harvard for me, because I was like, really? I'm going to go to the University of Georgia? Sure, I got it. And so I ended up there and I really worked hard, did a lot of the right things, made great grades, and ended up at Deloitte in 3 years. So it was really, really kind of it. But I hadn't planned that.
Yeah, but so tell me about how you ended up at Deloitte, because, I mean, Deloitte is a pretty prestigious place to end up.
It was the largest consulting firm in the world at that time. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So was it you ran into somebody? Did you?
No, they recruited me heavily out of school.
Wow.
I was involved in a lot of business and civic organizations. My grades, I think I made 1B.
Okay.
And that was, I was really kicked. I did a really good job in school.
Yeah, so you stood out.
Yeah, I stood out. And I was also, I really, really worked hard at being a good person then too. But what was interesting is when I got in a lot of trouble, by the grace of God, I didn't get charged with felonies. I thought I was going to do that, but it ended up being misdemeanors, which is really good. So it didn't follow me the rest of my life. So I'm very lucky on that front, because you would have never got a job at Deloitte.
Yeah, my wife works at Must Ministries on Thursdays, and she helps people who typically have some kind of a background that they are trying to get away from, right? And how do they do that? You know, they've had to take manual labor jobs or something else and can't do it any longer. So how are they kind of going through that in a way that they can find something else? So that can be a tough thing.
It is a tough thing, but what was interesting, all of that stuff from my childhood, the insecurity stuff, the not worthy stuff, all that stuff that comes up as all of us human beings on earth, I never dealt with that.
Yeah.
And so through my business career, it was all about the next big deal or the next mergers and acquisitions or how much money or bonus or title. And it was all this stuff. And all that stuff's important because it does make us feel worthy in some ways. But I wasn't living, I was living again in a fear-based mindset and was really concerned about what everybody else thought. So I got stuck in that whole fraternity locker room mentality of dog eat dog, got to be the coolest guy in the room. And I just never dealt with anything from my childhood or during that time period. And that's what manifested itself at 36. And I was just like, enough is enough, man. And so that's kind of the evolution of Choose Goodness and me and Tommy and all that kind of stuff.
Okay. And so, but then what happened in 2006?
It was just this accumulating. Some people call it rock bottom. Some people call it a spiritual awakening. If you looked at me on the outside, I mean, you would have thought this dude's got it all going. I mean, he's the young guy that's moving up through the firm. Again, prestigious title, junior partner, really young junior partner for this type of firm. But I was, again, living in all the wrong decisions. I was not, I just didn't want to be here. And I wore all this armor and masks that we wear.
Yeah.
But after like 3 or 4 days of just pure chaos and nonsense, and I just said, no more. I don't know what this is as a human, but this is not how I want to live, and I need to get on the right side of karma.
Yeah.
And so I just decided to really soak it in and drink up anything from a mental, spiritual, emotional, physical mindset to just be a better human than I was yesterday. Yeah. And even to today, I spend an hour to an hour and a half a day working on myself, from books I read to masterminds I either run or I'm in, from life coaching, personal coaches, meditation, you name it. Because I spend a lot of time helping executives and entrepreneurs with that same type of stuff. And so I have to live it for me to function as a human being on this earth. So this stuff's really important to me.
Well, and that getting unstuck by doing something like reading a book or participating in those are the things that are always helpful. You get up and do the same thing and you expect a different result, right? And then you go read a book and there's this one chapter or this one little thing that speaks to you and you're like, okay, I can see things a little different. You have to be open to that.
Totally. And I'm an avid reader now. Yeah. I probably have 3 or 4 books going at one time. So it's all about self-growth.
Right.
I live it.
Right.
I live it.
So what's interesting about that, you could have that 2016 sort of, you say, rock bottom, and for some people that would be the tailspin. You see the movies about that where the person walks in, the Jerry Maguire type thing. Which
who's with me?
Isaac still hasn't seen Jerry Maguire, but whatever. So you have those kind of things, but you turned that into a way to pivot your career at Deloitte.
Totally. Yeah. Actually, it was at it was at an international firm, but it was a local Southeast firm. I got recruited out of Deloitte into a large German firm, and from there into an international firm here in the Southeast. So, but I did. It turned into it was crazy. I went from working 90 hours a week down to like 40. Yeah. Recruiting some of the best talent. Our international practice actually beat UPS. For the Global Commerce Award by the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce. It was kind of crazy. We were winning all these awards, but and this is how Choose Goodness became a movement in a company and what we do on the educational, coaching, and individual executive level now too. What I've lived is I lived that power, hungry, money at all cost, and wear all these fake mask business guy. And then when I threw all that away and just said, hey, this is Tommy, I'm good enough, you can do this. And I lived from my heart space and found what my goodness, and goodness means something to everybody. And I knew in what choices did I make from a financial standpoint, a happiness standpoint, finding meaning and purpose in your life, operating in your zone of brilliance or genius. All of that stuff flowed naturally. And the monetary awards, the titles, the promotions, all that stuff I was working the wrong ways to get just came easily.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of this. I do believe you can achieve meaning in life. I do believe you can live with balance and live with purpose and actually be happy and make money. Because I've lived it, I've proved it,
right?
And now I've spent the last 7 years, speaking, coaching, educating on this type of stuff. So that's where it was born.
Yeah, and so then talk about that. Then how do you take people from the one place to the other? Like, where's the starting point for them?
The starting point for them, I wish they would call me before this, but usually when companies call me because of my background, my financial audit, M&A background, they call me when something is bad wrong in their company.
Compelling event.
Yes. Operations are down. I'm losing money. My people are running out the door. Come help me, Tommy, fix my company. And I've still got all of those contacts, background, legal, banking friends, all that. And they call me when they're on the trauma table.
Right.
And 9 out of 10 times, Eric, it's never about the company. It's never about operations. It's not about competition. It's about leadership and culture. Mm-hmm. And so we take a deep dive within the company and with them individually as leaders and executives or entrepreneurs. And we got to get truthful. We got to look in the mirror and we got to hold them accountable. So I become an accountability partner, and chances are I've made the same mistakes in one form or another,
right?
Or have been around a company
or seen it.
That's right. That's kind of the advantage of doing financial and operational audit and M&A work. You get to see a lot of stuff,
right?
But they always call me when something goes wrong, and then we end up spending just as much time fixing. I don't like the word fixing, or rediscovering and realigning what they're all about and what the company was all about, and getting them back working in their zone of brilliance, getting them back to what they started the company for in the beginning, and what's the reason we do this as a company, and work on the leadership, work on the culture. I wish it wasn't on the trauma table most of the time as I come in. Our revenues are half now. Well, I wish you would call me when they were less than half.
But there's this whole thing people don't change until they're in pain.
That's right.
Like
and that's crazy. That's crazy. I've lived it.
Live in that same place, because I go into companies primarily on the marketing side and sometimes operational in a similar way. And it's, often they don't have marketing at all. And they're like, not sure why we don't have website visits anymore. I'm like, because you're not marketing anything, right?
Right.
And it is often, well, it's always something more than you need marketing.
Every time.
Right? Or you need operations. It's other stuff. All right, well, we're going to go to commercial break. And when we get back, we're going to talk a little bit more about, your vision for this. You talk about it being kind of a mission, but also companies. So what does that mean?
Absolutely.
What are you seeing kind of roll out over the course of this coming year?
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Yeah, so talking with Tommy Breedlove. He's an influencer, speaker, and coach, and founder of Choose Goodness, which is a movement and a set of companies. We'll unpack that a little bit more when we get back. You're listening to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. We'll be right back.
Eric, tell us about Laddering Works.
So Laddering Works is a company that helps other businesses in one of two ways.
Okay.
So your company is either growing and you're not exactly sure how to keep up. So you need to scale operations, maybe raise some money, those kind of things.
So growing too fast.
Growing too fast. Growing too fast. You got kind of structural, you walk in every day, there's a fire. You've been doing it longer than 3 years or 1,000 days, and you still feel like you can't step away from the business and take a vacation. So we help companies on that side. So sort of operational support, looking at their financing, seeing if there's a way that we can help them, get to the next level. Or you're a company that's not doing any marketing at all. So you are maybe stalled. Your business has gotten to a certain level. You make a certain amount of money every year, but you've never gotten above that. And we come in and build marketing structure. So both of them are operational at the end of the day. It's about creating a process and a way to approach it that's strategic. It's that owners don't often know how to do both of those. So they're really good at sales, which means they may need operational structure because they're out signing more customers than they know what to do with. Or they've built a beautiful product that's the best kept secret. And so they need somebody to come in and help them market that product. And so that's the kind of businesses we look for. We come in as a stopgap, and we work with a company for somewhere around 12 to 18 months typically, solve those problems for them and leave them better than we found them. And we're back. You're listening to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. Today we're talking with Tommy Breedlove. He is an influencer, speaker, and coach, and he has Choose Goodness, which is both a movement and company. So,
correct.
Or a set of companies. So we're going to have to unpack that a little bit.
Absolutely.
So the movement part, the company part. What are some of your plans with Choose Goodness?
Yeah, so Choose Goodness actually has multiple components in it. It's got an education component to it, obviously. It's got a executive mentoring, individual coaching aspect to it. We also invest into companies. So there is actually a holding company we invest in startups that we believe in both the founders and the missions and what they're trying to accomplish, both monetarily and with our time sometimes. And it has, the give back component to it, the not-for-profit boards and the money side of what we give back to the community. For me individually, it's been interesting since I've gone on this evolution. Something's happened in the past year and a half that I just didn't expect, and it's kind of like these road signs that the universe puts out in front of you that you need to follow. Because of my background of that 20 years of financial consulting and a partner in a big firm, and it's been about 85 to 90% men between the ages of 38, believe it or not, to 68. I've had 3 or 4 60-year-olds reach out to me recently. Just saying I've lost meaning and balance in my life. I've made all this money. I don't have any purpose. What do I do next? I want to live a life of significance and meaning. And how did you do it? And how do you do it? So from a speaking standpoint, we've got a couple of books coming out. I've been asked to do a lot of I call it executive coaching and mentoring, but it's really about helping men discover meaning in life, balance in life, and rediscovering their zone of brilliance and getting them running optimally. So I've been asked to do that a lot. So my time has been a little bit more limited on the Choose Goodness movement, but my wife is also a major part of the movement. She's got a book coming out. She's a CFO of a large company. It's actually a large California company. But we've got a lot of public speaking gigs coming up. We've got a lot of educational gigs coming up. We just ran a men's retreat up in North Georgia, just asked to do another retreat for a couple of advertising agencies here in town. So there is the educational component. There is the individual component to it. It's growing. People seem to dig it. It's goodness is a good thing, right? And it means something to everybody, and the power of choice and knowing that we have those choices and getting people conscious, like presently doing those choices too. So a lot of cool things coming up. I'm being pulled into the public speaking world and the more of the individual coaching world. I did not expect that because I have a corporate consulting background.
Right, yeah.
Companies still call me. I still do that some. We want to continue that. We want to build that more into something that we can widgetize so that companies can follow it so I don't have to be there. Yeah. And so we're building programs on that too. So we've got a lot of cool stuff coming up.
Well, what's interesting about all the different components that you're talking about is that having the 360-degree ability to solve the problem. Because I'll walk into a company that is growing faster than they expected, but maybe they're having an AR and AP issue, but then that means they need to raise money. So we're going to multiple sources to try to get that taken care of.
Right.
And as much as you want that business owner to choose goodness at that point, they're like, how do I make payroll? And what, so you have to, it's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You've got to take care of those things, and then you can start to work on the higher order. How do I fix why this is going on, right? Like this is a manifestation of something else. It didn't just magically become such a mess, right? So
I love the fact that you're coming in though when the company's growing.
Yeah. Well, I get them on both sides. So I either get it operationally, I typically pick them up when they're fast growing, and on the other marketing side, it's like we haven't grown, right? And we've kind of leveled out. And it's funny that you talk about that same age. It's Generation X and above.
Yeah,
It's like. And they're saying things like, my next company will have no employees, or maybe I should just get a job. They're frustrated at that point. It's like, how do I not do this? I got to get off the hamster wheel.
Totally.
Right?
And it's not easy to do.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of courage.
Yeah, and so you talked about the group thing. Is it like I know of Vistage and EO, and there's Traction and some of those. Like, is it something in line with that, or those things you're envisioning?
Do you want the truth?
Sure.
Those guys come to me.
Okay. All right.
And I hate to say, I don't want to say which ones, but multiple coaches that you just mentioned also come to me because I'm bringing more. Of course, I have a financial and operational background.
Right.
But I bring more of the emotional, mental, really, again, how do we achieve meaning and significance as human beings on this earth and do it through our leadership, our culture, and our companies?
Yeah.
And I spend a significant amount of time from education to me going to events to retreats. Imagine like, I don't even know the right word. I need to figure out how to brand this, so maybe you and I could chat offline. But
Right.
It's more about imagine Tony Robbins meets Warren Buffett type stuff.
Okay.
So it is a holistic approach that I take. And these guys do resonate with me because of my business background, and I love business, and I've got other real estate stuff and other companies that we also work on. But at the same time, it's, those guys are more into, they also do a lot of the stuff we're talking about. But there seems to be this missing component here.
Yeah.
It's in your heart. The distance between your heart and head is a long way sometimes.
Right.
And so for a lot of those coaching programs come to me. But recently we ran a really cool retreat, me and a bunch of other guys, and it was a lot of pretty ambitious, really successful guys, and they got a lot out of it. So it was about how do they rediscover what they really meant in life, or how do they find their purpose as an individual, as a company, or what do we want to stand for and mean, and how do we put the strategies and tactics and systems in place, and how do we do this every day? Because there is no magic pill and quick fix to being happy in life. There's just not.
Yeah.
It's work.
And happy is a different definition for different people.
Totally. And so is
Right.
success.
Yeah.
So is
Yeah.
success.
Yeah.
For someone, and this is the truth, and we can say you and I are both business people. In a former life, I'd represented multiple billionaires. And for about 15 to 20 years, most of the guys that we represented, their companies were between 10 and 500 million. Their personal net worth was probably in that 20 to 40 million.
Right.
Usually their biggest fear was not having enough money, or what's the next big thing, which is nuts.
Right.
And the second thing is a lot of those guys felt alone.
Yeah.
They didn't feel like they could ask for help or show weakness, and they always felt like they had to be the guy or the gal.
That's funny, because the reason I started this podcast, I started this in 2011. I've been doing this forever, right? And I had a research company. It ran itself. And the one thing that I didn't think was being talked about enough, because everybody was talking about, hey, go be an entrepreneur. And I'm like, it's not really that great a job. Like, at the end of the day, it's not as rock starry awesome as you think it is.
Gary Vee has some great analogies for that.
Right.
I don't know if you can say that on the show.
And it's pretty low, and it is lonely, right? Like I
Totally.
told the story, like I would sit in my office and say, hey, Eric, what do you think you should do about that? I don't know, Eric. What do you think you should, how do you
Talking to the cats
talking
and dogs.
to yourself, right?
The kids, whoever listen.
So how do we get those stories out behind the scenes, which is what I do on this show, of, just listen to somebody else's way that they approached it, because that's, we empathize to the story.
Totally.
Right. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. And so speaking topics, so you say you do that. What are some of the things that you talk about? What are the
Everything
topics?
from leadership and culture, but down to participating in your own rescue, the power of conscious choices, and that's a really tough one for people. Conscious means I'm here right now,
Right.
and I'm listening to Eric, and I'm in this room with Eric. I'm not planning the 9,000 life and business things I have to do over the next 2 hours.
Right.
It's really hard for us. Mm-hmm. And think about how many times that we're in a meeting, or we're getting ready to send an email, or in a sales, or we're trying to sell something, and we're thinking about the next thing to say to the customer or the client, as opposed to what are they truly needing and saying to me right now, and can I be with that? But it's not just about being present and the conscious choices that you can make. It's how to do it. It's tactical things of how to live your life, how to be the best leader you can. I get a little woo-woo, and I think that's why some of those groups like Vistage guys and others come to me, is because there is an emotional aspect to life and business. People say business isn't personal. It's the biggest lie we tell. Absolutely the biggest lie we tell.
So intertwined.
Oh my God. It's one big stew, right? Yeah. Wherever you go, there you are. And
it's not like, and that's, because I do a lot around buying behaviors too, where it's like, I'm one person when I buy in the store, and I'm another person when I get to work. I'm the same person.
Same dude.
And it's the same influences are in place. Like, there may be a different authority I have for making the choice, but it's human to human. It's not about B2B or B2C or any of that.
I'm so glad you said that.
Yeah.
I hear B2B and B2C, and we use every acronym. I've spent a lot of time with bankers and accountants and lawyers, and so, oh my God, it'll drive you nuts. But there is an emotional component to it. There is a mental component to it. And there is, it's a holistic way to live your life, wherever Eric goes, if he's at the grocery store. But I mean, so many of us, we get caught up, like you said. I mean, if our companies are growing, we got to worry about finance, we got to worry about operations, legalities, customers, growth. How do I fund this thing?
Right.
How do I make payroll? Think about all those pressures.
Yeah.
And then you got to go home. and there's pressures from home.
Right.
And then life's going to kick you in the face.
Yeah. Life happens.
And then
right?
what are you going to do then?
Yeah.
I mean, and at the end, and for most of us, and I'll say us, I've been a lot of
absolutely.
I'll say us, when will it be enough?
Yeah.
What's the goal? Because I've represented some billionaires and they did not find fulfillment and happiness. But we do love the game.
Yeah.
We do love the competition. We do love building things. I mean, you wouldn't do what we do if you didn't. But you've got to draw a line in the sand about what do I want to stand for? What do I want to mean? What legacy do I want to leave? And when will it be enough?
Yeah.
And when we get there, do we even know we're there and enjoy it?
Right.
Because it is the next payroll or the next fundraiser.
Well, and you get taught that. Like I talk about the destination versus the journey. And we as entrepreneurs are destination focused, right? You know, like I'm going to make it to this thing. And then the second you get there, and I can tell this about when I travel, right? I'm going to the beach. And then I get there, I'm like, hey, I'm here. You know, like I made it.
What do I do now?
Yeah.
Let me look at my phone.
Enjoy the journey because it's about the journey, right?
Right.
Because when the destination gets there, you're ready to do the next thing. So,
Yeah.
so it's I like that balance. I've done a couple. I'm much more a consultant. I get in and get dirty. I'm not as good as a coach. I'm not as good at like, go do this and I'll see you in 30 days. But I looked at a lot of different coaching programs. And
Right.
several of them are like, they're more tactical, you know, like very like base things. And then some are more working on the person. And you have to tie those together.
Totally.
They have to be, you can't fix them unless their business is being fixed at the same time because they can't focus on that.
That's correct.
It's got to be holistically considered.
It's got to be holistic, and again, it's one stew.
Right.
It's one life. It's all this. It's all interrelated.
Yeah. So where's the best place to find out about what you're doing and what, you know, where should we go look at this stuff? Is there like
Two
a
places,
Facebook
yeah.
group? Is it a website? What are we doing?
Two places. ChooseGoodnessNow.com. Choose Goodness was taken by a hospital back in the day.
Okay.
So ChooseGoodnessNow.com, or you can reach me at Tommy@ChooseGoodnessNow.com. And for me on the individual side, the individual coaching and mentoring or public speaking, it's TommyBreedlove.com.
Okay.
So Tommy Breedlove is a subsidiary of the Choose Goodness movement. So either one of those places is where you can reach me.
Okay. Well,
and I
good.
love talking to people. So I just love hearing the human story.
Yeah. Well, and I've seen you bring this brand. I feel like this year you're bringing this brand up, or has it been a while?
No, Choose Goodness has been around for about 4 or 5
I've-
years.
I think I've seen more social things this year.
Yeah,
around,
Tommy,
so.
the Tommy Breedlove movement. I've got all these people managing me now, and
Oh, there you go. I understand
they think
that.
it's important.
I understand that because I kid. I walk in and I talk to the microphone, but a lot of other stuff happens.
They
I'm
said
like,
TommyBreedlove.com. I'm like, oh god, that just sounds arrogant.
but you'll always be Tommy Breedlove. You should own your name.
That's
really
the only
should.
thing I
You
can
should
be,
own your
man.
name. That's what you should name. Well, thanks so much for joining
Oh,
us.
thank you,
Appreciate
Eric.
it.
Yeah, absolutely, brother.
So you've been listening to Build Your Best Business. I'm your host, Eric Holtzclaw. Each week, we bring you another entrepreneurial story around what it takes to successfully start, manage, grow, exit a business, and do it in a way that you're choosing goodness.
Yes.
So until next Monday at 9 o'clock, what are you going to do to build your best business?